Welcome to Dugout Discussions with the Coach. I'm your host, Todd Scott Miller. And with me today is a gentleman I met a little over a year ago. And we actually worked at the same company for a while and actually left around the same time. So I'd like to welcome Gary Dennis. Gary?
Yeah, excited to be here. Excited to be a part of the podcast and everything you've been doing. So I'm glad you involved me with it.
Well, I'm happy to have you because you got an interesting story. Now, we met last year, probably around maybe January or February. You were a sales guy. I was an estimator at a company we won't mention, and we were both having kind of weird experience there.
Yeah. There was definitely a lot of changes going on. It was a somewhat of a tough time for me because I left a company I was very happy at, and I went through a ton of managers in a short period of time, and I watched a lot of team members get let go. So it was kind of it was interesting, but it was nice meeting you. I mean, you were kind of a new face after a lot of people have gotten let go, and so it was nice to have somebody to talk to in the office. there wasn't a lot of people left. So
yeah. Well, and I had kind of a different experience. It wasn't just that there weren't that many left, but no one would talk to me. So I still haven't figured that one out. I guess I scared them. I don't know. It's funny you mentioned having a bunch of managers. I had 3 at once. I was like, I'm not sure who I need to tell I'm quitting. I was.
Well, I had some really awesome managers. I had 5 managers, but some were really good. Like one of the guys that hired me on was Bob. Well, I probably shouldn't say his name on here, but he was a phenomenal guy. He ended up retiring after I got hired on, and then there was a couple others that were really good. They just had different career aspirations, or something happened in the company. So, yeah, it got a little weird there at the end, and I'd been thinking about starting a business for a while. I've been studying digital marketing and personal branding, and it was kind of weird. The weird part about it is we had a pretty small team, but we had a high quota, which happens a lot with big companies. But I was responsible for a new market initiative, so I was trying to figure out ways to use digital marketing and as I learned, I've always been one to just try it, try things out and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then refine it and make it better. I guess the fail forward, fail fast method before it was called fail forward, fail fast.
Yeah.
It's called. I just called it making mistakes and learn from it. So I was applying a lot of that stuff, and there was some leadership at the time that wasn't familiar with some of the technology, and they were unsure about it, and then people were getting let go, and gone through a bunch of managers, and I don't know, it just seemed like the situation I was in with everybody leaving and getting let go, that it was probably time for me to go ahead and leave as well. And I was trying to figure out what the next step would be. And I've always wanted to have my own business. I didn't know exactly what it would be, but I had finished my master's degree
from U of H.
Yeah, U of H.
Go Cougs!
Go Cougs! Oh, you can gig them too.
No. You do that for someone else's podcast.
But I'd been in sales a long time. I finished my MBA, and I'm like, well, my kids are young, and I thought, well, if I'm going to try this new business venture, I might as well do it. So I put in my resignation and formed a team, and we launched a business. And it's been a journey ever since. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of learning. It's been rewarding in some ways, but it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. It's given me different perspective on things, but overall, my business has been growing pretty consistently.
Yeah, we talked about the business idea probably about 2 or 3 months before you left and I left, and we both left on different terms, and you kind of jumped off. You went, I'm adios, I'm starting my own business. And what part of that is you're married and you have 2 young girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how is it making that transition with family? What's that like? How did you prepare, and how did you prepare them?
well, I'd been in sales for a while, so I put on my sales hat for my wife, and she bought it for a while until the income wasn't high enough, and then, I mean, but don't get me wrong, it just takes time, and it's been consistently growing. Revenue's been increasing, and she's been pretty understanding. She's been stressed out. My wife likes security, and it's understandable, especially with kids. But the thing that a lot of people don't understand is even working for a corporation is not secure, and I mean in a lot of ways it's less secure, because if you understand sales and you understand what it takes to bring in business, then you may be more secure having your own business once you get to a certain point, because in a corporation you're going to have totally different worries. And there's a book that was written, I read it as part of my MBA program. I think it was called Power. It was a blue book, says Power. I don't know if you've read that one. I think that was just what it was called, Power. And it talks about how corporations make decisions, and a lot of times it's not performance based. It's a popularity contest. I mean, a lot of statistics and studies show that people like people that are like themselves. So if your manager changes and you're different from them, whether that be your race, your gender, your ethnicity, whatever it is, if you're different from the person you work with, it could make things challenging. And a lot of times it's not based on performance, unfortunately. And that's one of the premises behind my company, Unbiased Data, is because we want to give companies a fair evaluation of their products and services. And so we represent international medical manufacturing companies. And it took us a while to get to that niche. But a lot of international companies, there's language barriers, there's cultural barriers, there's locational barriers. And I don't know if you've read the book by Robert Cialdini. It's called Persuasion. And he talks about, I mean, there's all these different biases out there, but no one really thinks about the biases associated with location. Mm-hmm. And he tells a story in the book where in Nazi Germany, it was a horrific time, and they would shoot a certain amount of people each day. And I think it was like every ninth person they would shoot. They would shoot people that were Jewish, and so one time, I mean, it was consistent. That was the process they had. As sickening and horrible as it was, that was what they did. And when they got to the ninth person one day, the person that was responsible for doing that horrific act skipped that ninth person and did the next person. And then his superior officer asked him, "Why did you do that? You're supposed to do the ninth person every day." And he said, "Well, that person was from my hometown." And so that was just one of the examples of how location and biases associated with location, like people are more likely to do business with somebody that's from their community, or somebody that's from their location.
Somebody they know.
Somebody they know.
Somebody they trust.
Somebody is close to family. People are more likely to do business with family than they would. Yeah, know, like, and trust. I mean, the better you know somebody, the more you like them. And then, of course, liking somebody is a lot of times based off not performance at all. It's based on somebody that's similar to you a lot of times. So our goal is to help these companies get past these biases. We're Unbiased Data is a third-party consulting company that our clients, potential clients, are more likely to share feedback with us about the perception of our client. And then we can go to them and help them with their strategy after we collect that data. And
Mm-hmm. And data bias is something this was actually what got us talking about you starting your own business, and this idea you had is because we had discussed how I had taught statistics at HBU, and so we had some discussions, and data bias is something that we don't get. And I like what you're talking about there with the location and things like that. Bias is not necessarily intentional. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's built into the data.
Yeah, you don't even realize it a lot of times that you're making a decision. I mean, people make emotional decisions and they justify it logically. Yeah. You think about when they buy a new car. They'll go buy a new car, but are they really buying it because it has four wheels and a certain type of tire that's safer, or Or are they buying it because it's a status symbol? Are they buying it because it's going to make them feel a certain way?
Or because it's fast.
Yeah.
Or because it's not a minivan.
Although my wife, she wants a minivan, I think.
I did a whole podcast on I hate minivans.
I know. I heard that one. That was good. This is going to be an interesting twist.
That's why she was like, "You're not going. You're just."
Yeah, I know. I heard that one on the minivan. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, a lot of people don't think about it. They make decisions. But if they're, and I think this is what, like in Robert Cialdini's book, he wasn't trying to teach people how to be better closers in sales. He was teaching people to be aware of how they think and how other people think and how they make decisions, so people can make more objective decisions. And so if you're aware of that you have those biases, then you can correct accordingly and really think about things more objectively and not just make an emotional decision. So that's kind of where we've ended up. So we'll do perception analysis, we'll do interviews and surveys, then help our client to understand what their potential clients think about their business if they're trying to enter a new market.
So when you talk about that, you talk about interviews and surveys, and one of the things when I happened to be teaching this business statistics class during the 2016 election, so it was like the gift that kept giving. It was like I didn't even have to come up with topics or anything to discuss. It was like they just kept handing me stuff, and so we're going through it, and they missed the predictions, right? And by a long shot. I mean, they weren't even close on their predictions as far as who's winning the presidency. And part of that was the data had become biased. And it wasn't necessarily an intentional bias, but it's because the way they pulled the data and then compared the data to past history, it gave them the wrong predictions. So when you think about that in terms of what you do, how do you ensure you're asking the right questions to get the data that you need to make sure the data is telling you what you think it is?
It's a good question. So it's a little different from a traditional marketing surveys, and we've looked at some of the surveys that are out there, and they're very high level, and they really don't give you any insights a lot of times. I mean, you look at it and you wonder, what is this really telling you?
How many stars did you?
Yeah. Okay, a certain amount of women, a certain amount of men, they like this, they like that. But it doesn't really help you understand problems. And so the way we ask questions is almost like a root cause analysis, where we're peeling the onion back. So we start off with the discussion from a high level, like, what do you think about our client's product or service? And then you dig back a little further. Why? How do you make decisions? How do you typically make decisions? How would you make decisions related to our client and their product or services? What is your perception? So you ask some general high-level questions, just like we were having a discussion. And then we go back to our client and we're like, okay, this is what they've shared from a high level. It's similar to a SWOT analysis. Like, what are the strengths that you see in our client? What are some of the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What are the threats? And then we work with our client to get very specific around a particular focus. They can focus more on the strengths or the weaknesses or the opportunities or threats. And then we really peel the onion back and we craft questions that get very specific around whatever it is they want to accomplish based on the initial conversation. So our survey questions aren't going to be the same per client. They're going to be very specific to that client's products or services. But it was interesting. We were working with a client and we were doing this market analysis, and then the client said, well, can you do basically sales activities for us as well? Now you know how our clients think. Now you know kind of what the right strategy is. But we're a new company and we're trying to grow here in the U.S. We don't have a sales team. Would you be willing to take on some sales activities, attend conferences for us, make phone calls, send emails? And so we created a client matching system to where we're identifying needs within these clients, and if there is a need for the product or service, we'll match our client to them. So we've taken it a step further, not just providing strategy, but actually doing a lot of the activities and trying to add value not only for our client, but for our client's client. And if they don't see the need, then we'll move on to the next client and match them with the right client that actually sees the need. And as a third party, it's been pretty effective so far because we're approaching our clients' clients as a consulting firm, not a manufacturer or sales organization. And I think people are skeptical around salespeople and sales organizations. We don't collect a dime from our clients' clients. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't pay us anything. They pay our clients if there's a good fit. So we're not collecting commission off of our clients. We're just...
Along that is something that I know has become much more popular. It's kind of like why do I do all these free podcasts? It's because I'm trying to bring value to you that's not costing you anything. That's showing that I'm here I'm really trying to help you. I'm really trying to give you this stuff. And if you want to get to the point where you want to buy, we'll talk about that. And that's kind of what you're talking about here with the consulting aspect more of sales is I'm bringing you solutions versus I'm trying to sell you something.
Right.
And then it's up to you to decide if you want to buy something. It's not, we're not trying to make you. We're not trying to force your hand. We're not trying to push you. We're letting you know we can help. And here's some information. Here's some ways we can help. And let you decide.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. And if they're not happy with something our client has to offer, they're more likely to share information with us than they will with our client directly, because we are a third party. And I mean, that's the entire intent. And if they don't share everything with us, it makes you wonder what their intention was to begin with. You know, did they really ever want to work with our client to begin with? And so that's kind of, we try to get past that as quick as we try to qualify clients as fast as possible, because we don't want to waste time with clients that aren't going to give them a fair evaluation. And that happens a lot, unfortunately. You know, people will ask for information, send us this, send us that, and make you think that there's an opportunity there when there's really not. So we try to cut through that as fast as possible.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff.
So, how let's take a step back and let's talk more about the transition you're making here. You know, because you'd mentioned, and this is something that I think as people think about starting their own business, how do I make the transition personally from I have a salary, I have steady income, I have lower risk, and all of that's not really true, but it's a perception. We have that perception. To I'm going to make this happen and try not to get divorced and
yeah, it's not easy. I went through some business training here recently. Big fan of Russell Brunson, and one of the things he said in one of the training I went through was, don't find your how, find your who. So I think you have to do a strong self-evaluation of what you're good at and what you're not good at. And you got to find people that are good at what you're not good at. So me, like, I knew I was good at sales. He said, you know, I feel like I'm pretty good. I've been in sales 13 years and I've been able to compare myself to others. And so I felt like I can get things off the ground pretty quick. And I think overall, if you look at the average, it has been pretty quick. Mm-hmm. So...
Because you're less than a year in.
Yeah. I think I'm at 11 months now. And, you know, I've built a decent-sized business over the past 11 months. But, I mean, have a plan, talk to other people, know what you're good at, know what you're not good at. Know how much run. I had a professor at U of H that described it to me in simple terms, that I needed in simple terms.
I understand. You're in sales. He's in sales.
Yeah, simplified as much. He's like, well, you know, you just got to figure out how much runway you have. Like, how much time do you have to get this business off the ground? Mm-hmm. And one thing I wish I would have figured out when I first launched my business, because I don't care how good you are, it's going to take you a few months at least to get some business, unless you have somebody lined up right out the gate. that's going to basically issue, because even if they say they're going to issue a purchase order, it might take a few months, for them to actually get it to you.
Especially if it's a large corporation.
Yeah. It just
may
takes
take that long just to get it approved.
Right. Yeah, you got several layers of decision makers and 10 people that got to sign off on it. But so one thing I wish I actually got a part-time job, like about 3-4 months in, after blowing through thousands of dollars a month trying to keep up with what my salary was and pay the bills. So I started teaching kids in China English from like 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. Mm-hmm. So it was outside the workday. But you'd be surprised how much more runway you can get if you have a part-time job or something to supplement your income. Mm-hmm. So if you have X amount of dollars in the bank, and let's say you're going to spend Y per month for your bills, maybe you can't make all of Y to begin with, but maybe you can make half of it with a part-time job, or even a third of it. So now you've taken the savings you have in the bank and you've extended it significantly.
Yeah.
As long as you can stay focused on that. One of the struggles I had teaching kids in China, and I backed off that quite a bit. Now I just do it for fun. But you get up at 3:45 in the morning. You're kind of tired during the day, so it's that's the only thing. It's you're going to be more tired, but it's better to be a little bit tired than run out of money too soon.
Yeah, than to be homeless.
Yeah, or homeless.
Yeah. It sure beats hungry.
Yeah, it does. But there's jobs out there. Like I've had job offers from other companies. I've had people that want to, but if you think about it, let's say you launch your company and it completely fails. There are still so many opportunities out there for work. You could drive Uber. People are making like $25, $30 an hour driving Uber full time. I had an Uber driver when I came back from St. Louis. I went to a conference earlier this week, and I was talking to her. She's like, "Yeah, there's Uber drivers making $8,000 a month driving Ubers," and so you can drive an Uber. So if things really hit the fan,
you can put the minivan to work.
You can put the minivan to work. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. And finally give it a use.
But the cool thing about jobs like Uber or teaching kids in China or whatever it is it's not a corporation that's trying to control your life.
Yeah.
Because I did have a company approach me at one point. They're like, "Yeah, we want to, we're very interested in, talking with you, blah, blah. But what would you do with your company if you hire?" And I say, "Well, I have people that work for my company, so they would continue to work for the company. And, if it was a good opportunity, I would think about it. But my company's not going anywhere." And they weren't interested in me anymore because I had a business.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, isn't this a good thing? If you're entrepreneurial outside of work versus just going home and watch Netflix. Not that I don't have my Netflix shows that I watch occasionally, but
yeah.
So that was interesting too. I don't know. There's some corporations that are out there still that really want you to be. It's beyond committed. They want to control your values. They want to control what you do on the weekend, what you do in the evening,
how you dress,
what you post on social media. I mean, everything. They want to control everything.
Where you work.
Yeah.
How you work. What hours you work. Everything. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, if they want to let you go, you're gone. I mean, I was working with a guy. He'd been with the company 40 years, and he got let go by email. Somebody very close to me, a family member, got let go. He was almost 60, got let go a day before his birthday. He'd been with the company 18 years.
Yeah.
And so it creates kind of a trust issue for companies. So, I mean, when I look at it, I'm looking at the long term. I'm not looking at the short term. And long term, you may be more secure having your own business. It's going to be difficult at first, but you'll be more secure than waiting till you're at a certain age where a company no longer thinks you're valuable and just cuts you loose and you have nothing.
Yeah.
Because you don't have... If they let you go when you're 60 and you work for the same company all your entire career, You're not going to know how to start a business. You're not even going to be thinking about starting a business because you're going to be thinking about retirement because you've been there so long. And I think that's when it really gets difficult for people. And like for me, hopefully, God willing, I have another 25 years within that I'm able to work. I don't ever plan on retiring. I enjoy working. But I mean, typically, people work, until they're 65. So I got at least another 25 years, 28 years.
Yeah.
7.5, whatever, 27 and a half.
It's when you start doing that math when you're like, I'll quit today because I can't do this for another 25 years.
Yeah, exactly.
When you do that math, you're like, how much longer? Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, if you got 20 more years in your career and you lost everything, what could you build back in 20 years with all the knowledge you have, all the experience you have, and the failure you had in starting your own business? Because when you have your own business, you're applying everything you've ever learned plus more stuff.
And you're not starting at zero.
Yeah, you're not.
That's the thing that I think, and you're a little younger than me, but still close to the midlife thing. You've got a lot of years of experience behind you. I think 15.
Yeah, about 15.
About 15 years in bigger corporations and stuff like that. So, part of what the seventh inning stretch is about is that when you get to the seventh inning in baseball, there's a lot of game behind you. But there's still a lot left to play. A third of the game is still in front of you. The game can still be won, and it can still be played different. And your strategy may change. You may need to do things a little differently. Like you said, you may have to get a part-time job to start up your business, or you may have a full-time job, start your business part-time, and then make the transitions in the opposite way. But either way, you're doing a lot of work, and you're doing what you can to make it happen. But what you've said is something that I think everybody needs to hear is the sense of security that you get at a big company is false.
Yep.
You're just like that. And like you said, it may not have to do with anything with performance. It could be age, which is illegal, but it still could be. It could be just money. It could be we got to cut this much from our budget, and you just make more than that guy, and it's easier to cut you and hit my number.
Yep. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And when you haven't started a business, you're in a corporation, it looks like this huge mountain. And I'm a big fan of boxing and MMA and all. You watch any of that MMA?
No. Look around you. What do you see here?
No, baseball. You need some Muhammad Ali or Rocky Marciano. Yeah. But once you get out there and do it, you start seeing glimpses of success. And before you start, it looks like this big mountain or this big battle you have to fight. But once you're out there in the middle of it, and you start chipping away at it, and you start seeing a little success here and a little success there, then you start to think, maybe I can do this. Mm-hmm. Maybe it will be okay. And then you just grow off of that, and it. That seems like how the journey's been. Because I'm not gonna lie. When I first launched my business, I was a little worried.
It's scary.
Yeah, I figured. Well, I have the education. I have an MBA, I have an engineering degree, I have sales. So if I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be successful. If I'm not, I'm not. But I felt like I had the tools in the tool bag. But I was still scared. You think about it. You have a family, but once you get out there and you get in the middle of it, it's like anything else. You could sit back and plan and think about it, and you want to do that to a certain degree, but you're never going to be able to experience it sitting back looking at it. You have to actually do it, get in the middle of it. But if you are working for a corporation, you want to start a business, I think it's very hard to do it while you're working for a corporation and have the time and energy. So I think you really want to find your who. So develop a business plan and find those tasks that are below your pay grade, and find somebody to do those tasks, and then you be responsible for the big heavy lifting, the decision making, and then any task that requires a little more experience. But if you think about it, if you broke down every task in a business, there's a lot of tasks that many people could do. You just have to be the ones that break it down into a simple task for somebody to do, and you're not going to have to pay somebody a whole lot to do a simple task, but that simple task may take up a ton of time if you were to do it. So it's almost taking your corporate job and you're investing in your own business.
Yes, that right there is one of the most important things to understand with all of this. Whether you're starting your own business and you're working for a corporation, or whether you quit and you do part-time stuff or whatever it is, you're not spending money, you're not wasting money, you're investing it.
Yep.
And it's just like investing it in any other company. It's a higher risk stock.
Yeah.
And it's your stock.
Yep.
It's you. But when you change your mindset and think of it as an investment, it kind of changes the way you look at it. It changes the way you think about it. It changes the way you spend money. One example. So I have a sponsor for this segment, and he has energy bars. He does his own energy bar business. And one of the things we talked about with the energy bars is when you change your perspective on food, it changes how you eat and what you eat. When you start to think of food as fuel for your body, it changes how you think about it. The food is giving me energy, and it's giving me I need calories, I need carbs, I need proteins, I need those things. My body needs them for energy, to burn, to use. Same thing with investing is when you change that mindset, where I'm not wasting money on a website, I'm not wasting money on this stuff, I'm investing it in a business. It just happens to be my business.
Right.
That changes things.
Yeah, it does. It completely does. It's a gamble. I mean, everything, your time is a gamble. When you go work at a certain company, you're placing a bet. And
you're investing your time in that company.
Yeah. And it's a bet. It's still a bet. It's like going to Vegas. Place your bet.
Yeah.
You're going to bet on your company, or you're going to bet on this corporation that you're working for. And depending on the scenario, either one is a better decision.
Yeah.
But you're right. It truly is a gamble. No matter how, I was playing. I was thinking about it the other day. I was playing a game with my daughters. I got a daughter that's 2. I got a daughter that's 5, and my wife. We were all playing this board game. I don't know all the names of the board games. They just say, "Hey, you want to play?" And I play the games.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously not Monopoly.
No, it wasn't. It was a really simple game. Like, everybody knows the rules. Like, anybody could play. But my 2-year-old daughter won, right? It was just chance.
Yeah.
It's just the dice rolled or the card flipped, and it was her. She won. And that happens too in business, and I've seen that. So you can know how to play the game just as good as somebody else, even better than somebody. I'm pretty sure I understood the game better than my 2-year-old daughter, but she still won.
Yeah.
And I see that happen in business all the time, where things just line up right. It's happened in my business on a positive note, but it's also on the same time in some cases it wasn't so great. But so that's the other factor.
But it never lines up unless you play.
Yeah.
You never win unless you play.
Yep. Yeah, there was a YouTube video. I think it was Steve Harvey that put it out. Jump. Did you hear that one?
I haven't heard it, but it sounds familiar.
Yeah, he talks about like I'm going to completely botch this whole story, but he talks about like eagle. I know, YouTube it, Steve Harvey jump, and it'll come up. But he talks about like all the eagles flying, and he's like, well, the only way you will ever fly like those eagles is to jump. He's like you are guaranteed when you jump, you're gonna hit rocks along the road. You know, you're gonna fall, and you're gonna hit bumps and bruises. But the only way you'll ever soar like an eagle is by jump. And he said you're guaranteed to never do that you're guaranteed to never do that if you don't jump.
Yeah.
Just like you're saying, yeah. It'll never happen if you don't try.
And then you're just a chicken.
Yeah.
Running around on the ground. Longest flight ever, 23 seconds.
Yep.
And that was probably because it was thrown out of a helicopter.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right. And I think about that too. You know, if I've told this to my wife, you know, whenever it is, if I'm on my deathbed, I'm not going to be like, man, I wish I would have spent more hours in the office, you know. But I will question, why didn't I at least try? Why didn't I try to start a business? If that's what I was driven to do, which has always been a passion and motivation of mine.
Yeah. That's the most common deathbed regret is, I wish I'd done more. It's not that they wish they'd worked more or things like that. It's that they feel, and I use this term, they're dying with the music still in them. Mm-hmm. They didn't try. There was something they wanted to do that they didn't at least try to do. And that's something you can't get back.
Yep.
You got to go for it. No regrets, man.
And you never know when that time's going to be. I mean, there's a lady at our church we just found out about. She's young. She's, you know, heck. I mean, you look at this pin I'm wearing right here. I'm a volunteer at Life Gift. It's an organ transplant organization, and so it's what they do is they help find donors, because people don't realize if something were to happen to them, if they were to donate, they can be a hero. They can actually save people. And my uncle passed away from liver failure at 54. And during that time, I happened to get a client that is focused in the tissue processing and organ transplant space right around the same time he passed away. And so I was looking for an organization to volunteer for, and Life Gift happened to be involved in that area of expertise. So it was weird how I got that client about the same time as my uncle passed away, but he was 54 years old. I mean, he retired early. He retired when he was 50. Mm-hmm. He got a nice piece of property, Llano, 10 acres in the country, and out of nowhere, liver failure, and passed away a week or two later. And I didn't even get a chance to see him because, I mean, the doctor said he's got 2 weeks to 6 months. I'm like, oh, this is Scott. He, you know, he's tough. He's, you know, he was a federal agent, and, you know, but 2 weeks later he's gone. And so you just never know. So, I mean, if you're sitting on the fence thinking about, hey, I just really want to do this, but I want to wait till the perfect time, there will never, ever be a perfect time.
No. And I had that conversation with someone today about getting ready to get ready. And a lot of times we get stuck in that loop where we're getting ready to get ready. I'm working on it. I'm planning. I'm preparing. I'm planning. I'm preparing. And we go back and forth and back and forth. I mentioned earlier that my book just published, and I wrote it 10 years ago, and it's been sitting there. And I decided, okay, I'm just going to do it. And I did a soft release, but this is those glimpses that you talked about too. Is I just did a soft release to people I know on Facebook, not the business page, just the friends page. And I logged in today, and I got 70 cents in royalties. And it's like, yeah, you know, I can't do anything with it. Yeah. It's not gonna buy me a candy bar today, but man, it's the best 70 cents I ever made.
Right.
Because it's mine.
Yeah.
And it's something I built, something I did, something I wrote. There's a difference. And it's it's very rewarding. And I didn't want to have a story like my dad where he died at 49, and I have several of his books under the stairs that never got published. So you don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to go for it.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, there's only one life. I mean, life's short. It's like having a baby a little bit, because I think about when my wife got pregnant with our oldest daughter. She's only 5 now, but at the time, I mean, it was right around the economy. The economy took a slump. I was in San Antonio, and they did layoffs in San Antonio, and I got laid off like right when I found out my wife was pregnant. And we're like, what are we going to do? We have the mortgage. We got this. I mean, we prayed like crazy. And then I just worked to find a job. And sometimes that's all you can do is pray and just do it. Just go, whatever it is that you want to pursue, you just go for it. You figure out a plan, and it's not going to be a perfect plan, but hopefully it's at least a B plan. Not a plan B, but not quite an A perfect plan, but a B plan.
What was that Patton quote? A good plan violently executed today is better than a great plan tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you really just have to go for it. And you will never know what it's like if you want to be. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. I got a family member, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there that want to go to work, have a certain task they do every day, and they do that task and go home, and they're happy with that. But for me, I wanted to build a company. I want to build more companies. I mean, that's my passion, is building companies.
And even for people like that, going back to what you talked about earlier, it's start finding companies that share your values instead of want you to have their values.
Right.
Start finding companies that believe the way you believe, that manage the way you think you should be managed, that they have those types of things. Look for them. They're out there. There's a good match for you.
Yep.
Just got to look. And it means also sometimes you got to turn stuff down. It's like, no, you're crazy.
Yep. No, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, the foundation for all business is ethics and values. And so you have to make sure from a starting point that those align with whatever it is that yours are. For me, I advertise on LinkedIn that I'm a Christian, and so for me that's my starting point every day as an entrepreneur, or whether I'm working for a company. That's my I try to live my life by the Bible, and then a step further is, do those values in a company align with my beliefs? And a lot of times they do. I mean, they're not. A lot of times company values are not in contrast with a lot of times they're not that specific, but in some cases that they are. I mean, you take your values, take your passion, you take your interest, and then to top it all off, you take your manager. So a lot of times it's not even the company, it's your manager.
It's your manager.
Yeah. Because a lot of times companies don't care that much, but that one manager
can make all the difference, good or bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've had the privilege of working for some awesome managers. I'll say their name. Ray Garcia, Johnson Controls, phenomenal manager, amazing person, amazing human being, amazing manager. David Kirkendall, when I was at Turbine Air System, same thing, amazing manager, amazing human being. So you see these leaders, but it's unfortunate for the bad managers when you have the opportunity to work for really good managers.
Yeah. And it's even worse for you because you're like, yeah, I've had a few good ones, and I've been laid off twice, and both those times were because I maybe told somebody in management they had their head up their ass. So, yeah, sure, it's my fault, but I was trying to do them a favor. They just didn't look at it like that, So anyway, before we go, a because we're getting close, and you still have a pretty good drive home, and it's raining and everything. So I don't want you to be out too late. And before we go, though, I want to go back to being a Christian in business and stuff. What role has your faith played in your business, starting your business, getting it going, how you work, how you formulate, what role has your faith played in all this, keeping you going?
Right. It's played everything. I mean, that's the glue that holds everything together. So I pray every day about it. I always want to be where God wants me to be, basically. And I feel like where I'm at right now as an entrepreneur is where He wants me to be. I feel like it makes it's very humbling, for one. It puts things in perspectives, helps you understand what your talents are, helps you apply your talents and not bury your talents.
You feel like you're using the gifts He gave you more.
Right. Yeah, and absolutely. I'm using the gifts He gave me more. And that's a big part of it is I want to... I feel like God has blessed me with certain things, and I want to use those things that He's given me to help others. So that's a huge part of it. And one thing I've learned about entrepreneurship that not a lot of people think about is, and I think a lot of people don't think about it because sometimes when you work for a corporation, they don't realize where it started. And I guarantee, no matter how big a company is now, it started with somebody with a level of humility that wanted to help people, that wanted to give to people. And that's how I feel as an entrepreneur. It's all about giving. I mean, we talked about this podcast and giving to others. A lot of times you got to give free services to begin with to get your name out there and develop a reputation. I mean, you have to give. As an entrepreneur, you have to give a lot. It's almost like being an artist, where you have to paint an entire picture before somebody tells you what it's worth. And so for me, my faith has been everything. When I'm down, it's my faith. When it's my up, I'm thanking God. When it's when I don't know one step in front of me, I'm praying to God to lead me. It's nonstop. But it's easy to forget too. You start getting a little bit of success, and you think it's all you, and then it's and then if you fall on your face, it's back to God again. You're like,
how often do you struggle with the I'm ready to quit, go back, get a job, or man, this is hard? And
I haven't got there yet. I haven't got to a point where I'm like, man, I'm ready. I mean, every day, it's just. I mean, I still have the fire to. There's been a lot of really good things that have happened over the past year. There's been some challenging things, but even the challenging things are rewarding. The struggles, the failures, you learn from those. And for me to walk away from this, there would have to be, a really good manager, a really good opportunity, a really good team. There would have to be so many things that would line up. And even then, I would question whether I'd walk away from having, continuing this journey. But I do have a family to provide for, and if it ever got to a point that at a point of desperation that I had to find another company, then of course I would lower my standards a little bit. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. It's as far as so far, it's been a blessing. The clients that I've been given, I wish I could attribute it to my own skill set, but some of the clients I'm working with now, they came out of nowhere.
They just show up.
Yeah, and I'm going to attribute that to prayer, and so I work hard and I give the rest to God.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
Well, thanks, Gary. I appreciate you coming and sharing with me and with everybody, and I think people can take a lot from this, because there's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of people who want to do their own thing. But man, it's hard. It's scary. It's hard. How do I make it? I got a family. I hear that a lot. people holding their kids up like a shield. I can't do it. I got a family. I can't.
Right.
It's like, okay, but, like I said, I've been laid off twice. And both times, it's hurt my family. And that's part of the reason why I want to do my own thing, is because I don't want to get to that point again.
Right.
I want, if it happens again, I want it to be because of my mistake, not somebody else's.
Yeah, and if anything, I would say loyalty among big companies and employees is not getting better.
No.
It's a two-way streak. I mean, you have certain generations that are being blamed, and they're not loyal. They're jumping companies. Well, companies are doing the same thing. They're ghosting people.
Yeah.
You got recruiters that interview people and then they never hear from them again.
Yeah.
Or you have people that hire you and they let you go for, because of whatever the reason is.
Whatever it is.
Something somebody came up with or made up or whatever it is. So yeah, it's not. If you're looking for security, it's not necessarily in a big company.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, and I don't know that it's anywhere.
It's not. There's really is no security. I mean, it's all false security.
It's an illusion.
You could come down with a health issue at any time. You can. I mean, bad things happen. I mean, you're really not secure.
And everything may be going great. Everyone might be getting paid. Every bonuses are rolling in, and then Enron.
Yeah, then Enron. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that was that's a good example. It's
even when everything's going great and rolling along and looks rosy and sweet, and it just crashes, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, but right now I feel like I'm the happiest I've ever been. And so
that's good.
I'm enjoying the entrepreneurship, being able to innovate, apply ideas, build something. It's been a journey. It's been extremely exciting. So yeah,
lose and learn.
Lose and learn. Yeah.
Thank you, Gary. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
All right, everybody. That's another one that's a wrap. I want to thank you for joining us, and may God bless you.